What's up, guys? Ready to walk here. So, I'm not dead, which, might be a surprise to some people. Uh, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. It's been so long since the last one. I just had, was in a bit of a really rough spot there. But we're back on it and time to make videos again. All right, so I figured we might as well pick up where we left off with this Pokemon meta overview. This will be our last video, and this should cover just about everything you need to know about OU Pokemon. So, as a final disclaimer, because as now we've finally covered just about all the Pokemon that there are out there that you will, see at an overused rate, I want to do a giveaway of sorts. So, once this is finished, I'll give it I don't know, like a week or something in the comments. Just leave a comment with whatever Pokemon you want, and I'll just randomly select one and I'll breed it for you. So you can give me like movesets, EVs, IVs, whatever, and yeah, I'll make that. So if you saw this and you're like, wow, I really like this Pokemon, but I don't have time to breed it myself, I'll make one for you. So yeah, just make sure to leave a comment with what Pokemon you want, and I'll get in touch with you if I pick your comment. I'll figure out how to do some comment picker thing. Hopefully it's not that hard. All right, so now let's hop into actually making this video. Starting with Cofagrigus. Okay, so Cofagrigus. It's a ghost, which is pretty good. And its ability Mummy, combined with being a physically defensive ghost, make it the one Pokemon in the game that is truly a 100% Conkeldurr check. Every other Pokemon has some set that they're afraid of. Even full physically defensive Reuniclus doesn't want to switch into Facade. But yes, Cofagrigus has nothing to fear, combined with the fact that even if Conkeldurr predicts you switching Cofagrigus and goes for like Thunder Punch or something, Cofagrigus gets hit by Thunder Punch and then changes Guts. Oh, the ability Mummy means that if you touch Cofagrigus, your ability becomes Mummy, which is just nothing. So Conkeldurr goes from having Guts, making it get boosted damage from Burn, to Mummy, which removes the boosted damage and then cuts his attack in half because the burn now affects him. So Conk absolutely loses to Cofagrigus. If your team if you think you've got everything covered except Conkeldurr, just boom, Cofagrigus fixes the problem every single time. For nature, you're just about always going bold. Potentially, you could go quiet on like a Trick Room special attacker team, but that's really niche and most likely using it as a physical wall. Okay, for the items, you've got Leftover and Rocky Helmet. So while as a physical wall, Rocky Helmet seems pretty appealing on Cofagrigus, the main issue with that is that Cofagrigus doesn't have any built-in healing, which is its one downside as a true wall. If this thing had Recover, it would be borderline broken. So, you have to rely on Pain Split as basically your only healing move, or Rest, which I've actually seen a lot of people have some success with. So between the two of those, Leftovers generally is going to feel better, because it allows you to, A, just deal better against physical moves like Stone Edge that aren't going to touch you, and just have the ability to heal up over time. Okay, for the EVs, generally just maxing out HP and Spidef. Not a lot to it. Okay, Will-O-Wisp is fantastic on Cofagrigus, as it allows it to fully check physical attackers. Once they're burned with Cofagrigus' massive physical defense, you've got no problems at all. Hex is used just because between Toxic Spikes and Will-O-Wisp, you basically always have status on opposing Pokemon, so it just becomes a stronger Shadow Ball. And Pain Split's here because it allows you to heal up, especially on something like Blissey. Cofagrigus can more or less full heal against Chansey or Blissey. It's fantastic. Okay, so looking at the other moves here, Haze is good because otherwise this thing is absolutely Volcarona setup fodder. And a couple other Pokemon can set up on Cofagrigus, especially if they're behind a substitute, which Cofagrigus really has a problem dealing with. So, Haze is decent for that. The problem is that generally it just leads to your Cofagrigus dying and them still being behind a sub because, Coff still can't really deal with it. But worth a shot. Especially for running Toxic, Haze plus Toxic means that you can put up a decent fight against non-sub Volcarona. Okay, Knockoff, pretty good move. It's basically here because lots of Pokemon that think Cofagrigus can't threaten them, i.e. Volcarona, will switch into it, and you can easily take away some items. What to give up here? Probably potentially Toxic Spikes, depending on how much your team needs them, or if you have another Toxic Spiker, or just another Spiker in general. Yeah. Toxic is here because while setting up Toxic Spikes is good, lots of defensive Pokemon can actually beat Cofagrigus because, as I've mentioned, it has a lack of good recovery. So Toxic allows you to just, put other physical walls or other just walls in general on a timer. Not bad. Toxic could go really well with Rest, but generally I think Toxic Spikes is going to be better for you. Just the ability to potentially poison your opponent's whole team. Very nice. And almost no one runs grounded poison Pokemon, so Toxic Spikes are more or less here to stay. Okay. Shadow Ball is here over Hex just because, sometimes they're not affected by status, and so it does more damage. Not the worst thing ever. It's more useful if you're running like Nasty Plot, Trick Room, which are going to be the next two moves. So Cofagrigus can actually use its immense physical bulk to allow it to set up a Trick Room and then a Nasty Plot, at which point, between Hidden Power Fighting and Shadow Ball, it becomes quite a pretty good sweeper, actually. Its special attack isn't nothing, and, the ability to boost up is pretty good. You generally see it running just Trick Room. On Trick Room teams, it's kind of a bulky Trick Room setter. The Nasty Plot Trick Room set was actually banned for a while. But as far as I know now, I believe it's legal again. It's just not particularly good. I don't know why they banned Nasty Plot and Cofagrigus. All right, let's hop into the next one here with Reuniclus. Absolutely one of the most adorable Pokemon you'll meet. Just look at that guy. Look at him. All right. That being said, Reuniclus is an absolute menace and more or less a genocidal freak. So, typing Pure Psychic, very good. Ability, Magic Guard, absolutely insane. So, if you haven't had the misfortune of running into Magic Guard means that you are only affected by damage from direct attacks. So, Toxic, doesn't deal any damage to you. Every entry hazard, no damage to you. Burn, no damage. Life Orb, no recoil damage. Yeah, the only thing that affects you is direct attacks. So, Reuniclus is the absolute stall killer. Stall Pokemon that rely on Toxic don't really do anything to it. It has a massive HP pool, so Pokemon that attempt to wear it down through either weak attacks or Seismic Toss, not going to cut it. Reuniclus can 6-0 a Stall team on its own, and it is amazing. At 9.47% usage, it's fairly used. But I've been seeing Reuniclus tick up more and more, and I think it's just incredibly well positioned right now. So for Natures, you've got quite a few options, as there's two incredibly powerful Reuniclus sets that both function fairly differently. So for the Bold set, you're going to want to run Bold, with it, which is increased defense, and minus physical attack, because this thing is a special attacker. You go Bold with either Rocky Helmet or Leftovers, and then kind of like Calm Mind, Recover, Focus Blast, Psychic. Very good set, good at setting up on more or less the entirety of bulky Pokemon, and can one-shot most anything. The few things that can't one-shot, like Blissey, there's nothing that stops it from just boosting up to +6, at which point you can beat a Blissey. Very good. The set kind of struggles against Scizor and some offensive Pokemon, though, because as a pure Psychic type, Banded U-Turn does a lot of damage. However, it is worth pointing out that Banded U-Turn, in fact, doesn't kill Bold Reuniclus, which is quite good. That means you can abuse things such as Hidden Power Fire, or just a boosted Focus Blast, or Recover even on a predicted U-Turn, to actually, a lot of times, have a good chance at even beating Scizor 1v1. If Scizor locks itself into Banded Pursuit, and you're, let's say, Rocky Helmet, as you click Recover on the Pursuit, Scizor actually has to switch out because it'll die before you run out of Recovers. Okay, the other set here is a Quiet Nature, which is minus speed plus special attack, at which point Reuniclus's massive special attack and absolutely abysmal speed allow it to become the fastest Pokemon under Trick Room, while just one-shotting so many Pokemon. It gets to hold a Life Orb for this set and take no Life Orb recovery, so you generally give up Recover on this set. Reuniclus has the ability to set its own Trick Room, so you would run Trick Room, Psychic, Focus Blast, and like Hidden Power Fire or Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lets you beat opposing Reuniclus, Hidden Power Fire lets you handle Scizor more easily. So it's, you win some, you lose some, you gotta kind of pick there. But with whatever moves you do pick, you'll be able to absolutely slaughter the Pokemon that they're weak to. So yes, a great set, and a great addition to Trick Room teams, basically the standard and just best Trick Room Pokemon. So for EVs, you're generally looking for the Bold set to just max your HP and defense. And the reason I have 52 special attack here is that there was more of a, how do I describe it, like a trap Reuniclus set that I was working on, where you run the max defense Bold set, but you give up like 52 EVs out of your HP, or defense, whichever one, or a combination of, where you need 52 special attack EVs. Combined with Life Orb, allow Hidden Power Fire to one-shot a max HP Scizor. So, fairly good. If you predict the Scizor switch, boom, you just kill it. Not bad, however, you do give up some coverage, or you do give up the ability to have your perfect coverage, more or less perfect, between Psychic and Focus Blast, and then the boosting and healing of Calm Mind Recover. So, like, there's gives and takes, but I thought it was a decent set. If you do want to kill Scizor, that's what you need. Be careful if you just pull up the calculator for Gen 5 and look up Hidden Power Fire, because the hidden powers are all, of course, more powerful in Gen 5. They got nerfed later on, and that's a Pokemon goes off of just the base 60 power. Okay, this is your standard moveset. The reason you run Psychic over Psyshock is because, the main special walls in the game don't have anything that touches Reuniclus, so Reuniclus can just boost up to +6 on most special walls, at which point Psychic and Focus Blast will kill them. So running Psyshock means that you actually get walled by a bunch of physical walls, like, what's some good ones? Physical Dark types, become a pain. Wow, there was an important one that was just right there in my head, like Hippowdon and Gliscor. There we go. Especially Gliscor becomes a problem if anything that resists Focus Blast. But yeah, Psyshock just really isn't needed, and honestly, Psychic is a lot better. Psychic does way more damage to Conkeldurr as well, and that's a big one. Because even though you do, resist Conkeldurr's main attack, Facade Conkeldurr will put a huge dent in you, so you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. For your other moves, though, if you are running Life Orb, you absolutely want Psyshock over Psychic, because that'll allow you to take a massive bite out of Blissey, and Special Walls, because you won't be boosting up with Calm Mind. And if you're running, Special Attack Investment, if you're running the Special Attack Increasing Nature with a Life Orb, Psyshock just does nutty damage. Shadow Ball, Hidden Power Fire, the choice between destroying Scizor or opposing Reuniclus. Trick Room, fantastic. So Acid Armor here is a pretty interesting option. You can switch Acid Armor in place of Focus Blast, and basically run just a mono attack Reuniclus. If you've played later gens, it's more or less stored power Reuniclus, but with a less powerful stored power, sadly, in Psychic. So the appeal of this is that it's basically just the best Pokemon. Once you get an Acid Armor up and 1 or 2 Calm Minds, you beat everything. Nothing can kill you. I mean, you can lose to crits, but the problem is that you have mono Psychic coverage, which means a Tyranitar can come in and absolutely destroy your day. Or while you're trying to boost, you still don't really enjoy trying to sit up in front of like a banded Scizor. So if it gets its boosts up, it can be unbeatable with the exception of Dark types, but it relies on getting its boosts up. You can't really increase your damage. You can't. You need to increase your damage a whole bunch to break through Pokemon that resist Psychic, and a lot of times there are just strong enough physical hitters out there that won't give you the turns you need to set up the Acid Armors. But decent option. It's good to know it's out there. I almost lost to it once, but one of the downsides is that it gives you like 10 turns to land a crit because it has to boost up a lot, at which point, Garchomp Earthquake eventually gets lucky, and there you go. But a fantastic Pokemon overall. One thing to mention that I want to just throw in here is that if you're running the Max Defense Bold set, I have actually liked Rocky Helmet over Leftovers, because if you use this exact set here, you don't have to run a Hidden Power Fire, and you can actually beat Scizor with just Rocky Helmet, because when Scizor comes in, you just click Recover, and Scizor, if it Swords Dance Scizor, you just lose. If it Swords Dance Scizor and it Swords Dances on your Recover, you're boned. But generally they're not. So if you click Recover, it either clicks Pursuit, in which case you heal off all the damage, and Rocky Helmet takes a big chunk out of it, and it has to switch its move, or it clicks U-Turn, in which case Recover doesn't heal off all the damage, but it heals off most of it, and Scizor is now switched into a different Pokemon. And generally Scizor is the team's best check to Reuniclus, so Scizor is no longer in there, which means you can either recover as they switch back to Scizor, or Calm Mind, yada yada yada, something along those lines, and Reuniclus can actually beat Scizor 1v1 without ever needing to really attack the Scizor. I think it's worth it giving up the Leftovers recovery just for that, because Scizor is the most used Pokemon, and allowing Reuniclus to have its worst matchup turned into a winning one without you having to do anything, or sacrificing any move slots, generally makes Reuniclus a much bigger threat to a lot of teams. Okay, now we're going to look at Ferrothorn. Wow, just quite the defensive behemoth coming out in Gen 5, and it's put a stop to quite a few teams, and is one of the main reasons why Magnezone is so used. Pay no attention to my cutting out of the image there. I tried my best. Okay, with Grass and Steel typing, Ferrothorn is pretty good. You will notice the 4x weakness to fire is quite a pain. Ferrothorn is tanky enough that a lot of Pokemon's Hidden Power Fires actually don't one-shot it, but anything stronger than Hidden Power Fire, and yeah, Ferrothorn's going down. So this is the reason you'll see lots of Salamence with Flamethrower and stuff like that, just absolutely cleaning Ferrothorn up. A side note, Garchomp's Fire Blast, if you're running like Hasty Nature or Naive, so not even Special Attack minus Nature, your Fire Blast doesn't kill this thing in one hit. It's like Ferrothorn is still fairly tanky. Well, assuming it's not like max physical defense Ferrothorn. But yeah, so you won't die to every fire hit. Rain will reduce that, but still be afraid of fire. And the weakness to fighting is also pretty restrictive on Ferrothorn, but besides that, it has great resistances across the board. Iron Barbs basically gives Ferrothorn a built-in Rocky Helmet, so combined with Rocky Helmet, you deal massive damage to anything that touches you, but, you know, it also means you can run leftovers and still get that Rocky Helmet boost on its own. With almost 20% usage, Ferrothorn it comes in solidly as the 5th most used Pokemon, so if your team has a big problem against Ferrothorn or your main offensive core can't break it, you need to change that or you will lose. Alright, so with the natures, we're looking at Relaxed and Sassy. This thing almost always gives up speed to boost either its physical defense or its special defense. Boosting physical defense means you can put a couple EVs in, which is its higher stat, but not by much. It actually has very high special defense. Means that you can put some EVs into special defense, put your nature into physical defense, and max your HP EVs, and have an overall very tanky Pokemon. Sassy could allow you to invest fully in special defense and honestly just survive a just absurd amount of special attacks. A lot of like weaker focus blasts won't even really do that much to you. The standard EV set on Smogon is this 252 HP, 42 defense, 208 special defense. I mean, it's fairly decent. You can really customize Ferrothorn to survive what you need it to survive. Let's say that you already have like a Blissey or something, and Ferrothorn in no world has to stay in on a special attack. Cool, you can drop this stuff. But let's say you're running this thing as kind of a solo wall. Let's say you're running like mixed defense Ferrothorn, mixed defense Mandibuzz, which I think is a very good core. Then, you know, you can maybe keep them both mixed or shift even a little bit more defense into special defense, just whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so Ferrothorn's main claim to fame is that it has the best hazards in the game. It is a spiker and a rocker, and it has the bulkiness to set them up in front of almost everything, and Leech Seed gives it its reliable form of recovery. However, once again, as we have to note, Leech Seed is its only form of recovery with the exception of Rest, which means that you don't have Recover. So Ferrothorn is prone to being chipped down, because between Leech Seed and Leftovers you have a good bit of recovery, but that doesn't make you, immune to damage, and there are lots of fighting Pokemon out there, or fire types, or just Pokemon that'll hit you neutrally with ground type moves like Earthquake. Like, I think 3 Earthquakes from Jolly Garchomp will take this thing down. So if you switch into Earthquake once and don't heal up, you can no longer switch into the second Earthquake and take a third, things like that. One of the upsides, though, is that Gyro Ball it deals damage based on the difference in speed. Ferrothorn has almost no speed and surprisingly good attack, means that you can just almost kill a Garchomp in one hit. So yeah, does a lot of damage there. I'm getting ahead of myself though, so let's go over the items really quick. Leftovers is great because, again, with Leech Seed as your only form of recovery, you really want every additional form of recovery Ferrothorn can get. Rocky Helmet is fantastic though, because combined with Iron Barbs, Pokemon holding a Life Orb take like half their health and damage if they touch you physically. And yeah, just absolutely lets you destroy U-turning Scizors. However, that being said, you are neutral to U-turn, so you can only do that so many times. And if I click Superpower, you just die. So give and take there, but lets you punish U-turns, and Shed Shell is great, just because so many teams run Magnezone for the sole purpose of Ferrothorn and Skarmory destroying them, that a Shed Shell Ferrothorn actually has a fantastic matchup against a lot of those Pokemon, in that it's able to, beat teams that rely on Magnezone cleaning for Gyarados, or Magnezone cleaning for other physical attackers that can't deal with Ferrothorn, or that have sacrificed coverage because they count on Ferrothorn being gone. Additionally, Shed Shell lets you beat Rain teams that are trying to trap Ferrothorn, as Ferrothorn again cannot infinitely check Kingdra because of its lack of good recovery, but it can switch in, especially if you have some Spadef EVs, and take a couple Hydro Pumps, take a couple Surfs and like one Hydro Pump. And, eventually scare Kingdra out. Okay, so getting into the moves. This moveset right here assumes that you have a strong rocker, because there are lots of good rockers in the game and not very many good spikers. So using spikes as your main hazard, Leech Seed, Gyro Ball, and Power Whip gives you very good coverage, the ability to destroy some Pokemon like Gastrodon, which have been seeing a lot more usage. Rotom Wash, again, just gets absolutely smacked by Power Whip. So Grass-type moves have always been very good against specific Pokemon because they're so rare. Pokemon that have crippling grass weaknesses can get away with it by more or less ignoring the existence of grass-type attacks. Ferrothorn having a high base power move and fairly high physical attack means that it can beat down a lot of those Pokemon with Power Whip, especially given the fact that Rotom Wash is everywhere because it's so good, and Gastrodon has been rising to prominence because it fully walls Rotom Wash. So Ferrothorn can put up hazards in their face, and if they do stay in, you can power up them. Your immunity to Toxic is very good, because it lets Ferrothorn beat a lot of tanks 1v1, and now let's get into the other moves, because Ferrothorn has a whole lot, and they can really adjust your playstyle a bit. So, Stealth Rocks is here. You can use it in place of Spikes if you're really just trying to get one layer of hazards up and don't have any other hazard setters. Ferrothorn is very good at that. A lot of times capitalizing on Spikes is good, but if you're running a team where Ferrothorn is probably just going to get one turn in and has to switch out against, Conkeldurr or something, Stealth Rock can be decent. Thunder Wave is here because lots of Pokemon think they can set up on Ferrothorn. Volcarona, I switch Volcarona in on Ferrothorn all the time. And if I get hit with a Thunder Wave there, boom, Volk's basically gone. So Thunder Wave lets you catch Salamence switching in. Catch maybe a Garchomp trying to be cheeky. Volcarona, so many setup Pokemon think they can deal with Ferrothorn, and catching a Thunder Wave on the switch just absolutely destroys them. So many people don't expect this, and it's an incredible move. You could give up maybe Gyro Ball just from the Power Whip there, because lots of Pokemon that you would be Gyro Balling, well, I think I said you could Thunder Wave Garchomp a second ago. Obviously, that doesn't work. Yes, ignore that. Sorry. But lots of Pokemon you'd like to Gyro Ball, like Salamence, or potentially using it to get a decent hit in on Volcarona. Thunder Waving them does just as much, and so keeping the Power Up, Thunder Wave there, very good overall coverage. Bulldoze is here, because you know how I mentioned Magnezone, instead of running a Shed Shell, if you Bulldoze as Magnezone switches in, you get to smack it with a 4-time super effective move, drop its speed, and potentially just kill it with your next Bulldoze. Something to note is that Ferrothorn can run a Choice Band set. So Power Up, Gyro Ball, and Bulldoze are all very powerful moves. I'm sure you could fit another strong move on there. It doesn't come to mind. It's a very rare set. But the thing is enough attack, and it's a huge surprise factor that, yeah, Banded Bulldoze, just, one-shot a Magnezone. Banded Gyro Ball, though, one-shot a Garchomp or a Salamence, and that's the power of the set. Like, it can really throw some damage out there. But normally just running Bulldoze lets you 100% lower Pokemon speed, so if something switches into Bulldoze, then Ferrothorn can switch out against it, and now they probably have to switch out afterwards because their speed is lowered. Okay, Protect is good because it lets you scout moves, especially against a lot of Choice Band Pokemon. If they lock themselves into a move that hits Ferrothorn, you switch out. If they lock themselves into a move that doesn't hit Ferrothorn, cool. Now you just, spikes the next turn as they have to switch out. As, the gig is up, you saw what move they were locking themselves into. The problem is that you have to give up one of Ferrothorn's moves, and giving up one of those moves makes it weak to some Pokemon. Generally, Gyro Ball is your most expendable move here. Okay, Rest is pretty good because it gives you a reliable form of recovery. It also means that Ferrothorn doesn't get worn down by burns, because while Ferrothorn is good at switching into Scald, as it takes very little damage from it, getting burned will turn off your leftovers and make the Ferrothorn very susceptible to getting worn down. Rest is good at dealing with that, but again, Ferrothorn has to then take a couple turns incapacitated, and it's, good but not perfect. Toxic is here, because, again, very few people expect it, and allows Ferrothorn to win a lot of tank matchups that it normally wouldn't. Something like, let's say a Gastrodon, if you're not running Power Whip, Toxic lets you still cover the Gastrodon matchup while beating other bulky Pokemon that normally wouldn't have a problem dealing with Gyro Ball or Power Whip. It's there. I think Thunder Wave is one of your realistically most plausible other options being used over Gyro Ball, or Stealth Rock over Spikes. That really just depends on your team composition. But yeah, Ferrothorn is a very good Pokemon. Your team needs to know how to deal with it. The one thing, though, is that Conkeldurr and Scizor are incredibly used, and Banded Superpower or just a Drain Punch from Conkeldurr is going to mess Ferrothorn stay up. So you need to have some way in your team to consistently check powerful fighting type attacks if you're using Ferrothorn, but if you do have that, like Ferrothorn Jellicent, something along those lines, you'll be quite good to go. All right. Well, that actually sounds pretty good, Ferro Jelly. I might try that out. Yeah, could be worth looking into. All right, now we're going to look at Chandelure. So, Chandelure, always been a good Pokemon. Highest special attack in the game, well, in our game, and highest non-Uber special attack most of the time. In later gens, we might highest non-Mega special attack, yada yada. Okay, but Fire Ghost typing, incredible offensive coverage. With the notable exception of Tyranitar, this destroys so much of the metagame. Chandelure is actually something that I was looking through, I think, the top 5 or 6 Pokemon most used. Chandelure has a move that will one-shot each and every one of them. So that's quite the claim to fame. Being able to, with the right moves and prediction, you don't even have to be like, it's not like with specs. Without choice specs, you can one-shot all of the top 5 most used Pokemon. You have Conkeldurr. Ooh. That one you might need... No. Yeah, no, Conkeldurr should die to Overheat. You might need to, like, Rocks Up, but, like, more or less one-shot. Also, like, what's Conkeldurr going to do to you? Then, because it can't hit you with priority, then you have Garchomp, Hidden Power Ice, murdered. You have Scizor, you're a Fire type, obviously murdered. Skarmory, Ferrothorn, destroyed. Gengar, dies to Shadow Ball. So the Choice Scarf set on this Pokemon is absolutely incredible for dealing with that. I just want to mention this, that you see the usage sitting right here at 7%, but while it's not terribly used, I think Chandelure has an incredible potential right now with the current meta. Also, Energy Ball, destroying the incredibly prominent Rotom-Wash, which isn't super high in normal usage, but in terms of tournament and World Cup usage, everyone's using it because it's incredibly good. A lot of people just haven't bred it because it's expensive. between the moves that you see here, it can one-shot just so many Pokemon. And it has the massive attack where it doesn't need to boost. So I think Chandelure is in a very good spot, and I'm going to breed one soon. Flash Fire gives it just another immunity to fire-type attacks, meaning that you can fully wall Mixtape, and Flame Body is there. It's okay. The problem is that, generally you don't want people touching Chandelure because it isn't super bulky. However, it's not terribly frail. It stands up quite well. If you stay in, like Scarf Titar's Pursuit does not really any damage at all. Okay, for the nature, you're more or less always going Modest. Yeah, you can go Timid, but Chandelure's speed, while not terrible, means that Modest more or less just lets you capitalize that insane special attack and murder things, whereas you're still not outrunning a lot of things with Timid. The main set I'm looking at here is Choice Scarf, because that's the set that I think is absolutely incredibly positioned. If you run this EV spread, the max special attack, Modest, Choice Scarf, a little bit of HP, because why not, and 212 speed, you outspeed everything past... It's been a little while since I made these again. It outspeeds everything past, like, Starmie, I want to say. I think that's what it was made for. Outspeeding Starmie. Which means, like, you cover, like, Garchomp, Starmie, Rotom-Wash, yada yada. Like, every Pokemon that isn't Choice Scarfed, basically, you'll outspeed with this. Maybe even Alakazam. I don't know if it covers that. I would check the EV spread. It's it's there for a reason, though. Very good. More or less outspeeds every non-Scarf Pokemon. So, with the coverage you get here, Shadow Ball, Overheat, Energy Ball, HP Ice, but just, like, it's just fantastic offensive coverage. I can't be more in love with this. Grass type attacks, especially Energy Ball, are just so important right now, with Rotom-Wash and Gastrodon everywhere. Spadaf Gastrodon blown away by our Energy Ball. Just so many defensive Pokemon get smashed by this. A lot of teams are using Jellicent to deal with the Trappers, although the banning of Wobbuffet has reduced the need for that. Still, Jellicent's been seeing rise in prominence and absolutely put in its place by Shadow Ball. Like, just so many moves on Chandelure. Also, Overheat. Overheat does, like, 80% to Rotom-Wash. Like, Overheat from Chandelure just does so much damage. That's why I've chosen it over Fire Blast. Generally, you only have to use it once. It has higher accuracy, and if something gets hit by Overheat, if it doesn't resist it, it probably dies. If it resists it, it still has a good chance to die. The one problem you notice with this set is that, destroyed by Chansey and Blissey, so your team needs a way to deal with that. However, Dugtrio is still legal, so, there's that. Banned Titar also deals with it pretty well. Or just other strong physical attackers. Okay. That being said, Chandelure is so deadly because it has other sets it can use. You can run Choice Specs and more or less the same set, and just instead of one-shotting all the fast Pokemon in the game, you can one-shot basically anything not named Blissey with the right prediction, and just highest special attack in the game, Modest Nature, Choice Specs, Chandelure, 140 base power, Stab, Overheat, speaks for itself. So, Leftovers is here as an option because Chandelure, besides being just a choice attacker, has fantastic usage from Calm Mind, or Substitute, which turns that Blissey matchup, if you switch to just, let's say, Shadow Ball, Hidden Power Fighting, suddenly, with Substitute Calm Mind, Blissey becomes setup fodder, because Blisseys are either running Flamethrower or Seismic Toss as their offensive moves, neither of which can touch you, meaning your Substitute is going to stay intact. If Blissey is running T-Bolt or Ice Beam, less seen, but potentially usable moves, those are not going to break your Substitute, not even close, especially after a couple Calm Minds. So yeah, just quite the Pokemon, quite the offensive threat. The ability to be a setup set, which I think also has a lot of prominence, or just a fast Scarfer, destructive Specs-User, Chandelure's got it made. So, with the other moves here, Trick is a very good option here, because if you are running the Scarf set, you could give up one of these moves, potentially Hidden Power Ice, because honestly, like, Scarf Shadow Ball is going to just eat up Garchomp anyways. Easy to hit KO. But, so you can use Trick here to turn that Blissey matchup into a guaranteed win against you, to be just suddenly Blissey is crippled, and Chandelure can have its way with the rest of the team, now that their main special defensive wall can't deal with it. It then removes your ability to be locked in, meaning that against more defensive teams, Trick lets you cripple one of their walls, and then throw off the attacks needed to beat the rest of their defensive team, because while Chandelure isn't super fast, it's not terribly slow, and against a lot of walls and defensive Pokemon, Chandelure gets the upper hand. Now, Calm Mind Substitute, we've covered that. You can run one or the other. Just Substitute as a substitute attacker is very good. It functions the same way as Gengar, but trading a bit of speed for offense, I think it has, quite a bit of promise as well. Fire Blast and Flamethrower here, depending on what mischance you're willing to tolerate, With Fire Blast and Flamethrower, they're both spammable as opposed to Overheat, meaning that you can use them over and over, of course, to just destroy teams that are weak to fire. But the mischance on Fire Blast and just the weakness of Flamethrower mean that I really like Overheat on the Scarf set, but of course, with other sets like Calm Mind, you'd probably run Fire Blast. Okay, Psych Up. Psych Up is here because on the standard Volcarona set, because most people insist on running Giga Drain, you will notice that Chandelure is immune to fire-type attacks and resists the other two moves Volcarona is going to run, meaning that you can Psych Up, copy Volcarona's moves, and smash it with Overheat, or you could go full in on this and run Hidden Power Rock, run like Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, Hidden Power Rock, Psych Up, and suddenly Chandelure copies Volk's moves, or copies Volk's boosts, one-shots with this Hidden Power Rock, and you've got a, maybe 2 Quiver Dance Chandelure to destroy them. Side note, with Chandelure, passing Quiver Dances to Chandelure seems like the easiest way to sweep Battle Tower. I haven't really put too much thought into it right now, or too much practice, but that and just finding a way to not get destroyed by Aqua Jet, I think Chandelure is a pretty good bet for sweeping it. People have been asking about that. Chandelure has Pokemon that have just a massive offensive stat. I think that's what you're going for. Just Smeargle to Baton Pass. That could be your way to do it. Pain Split is here because, you could actually get a pretty good chunk of healing against Blissey by using Pain Split. It's worth mentioning. I generally don't think it's worth it because you have to give up some of Chandelure's fantastic coverage, so I'll probably keep it just like this. Okay. Haxorus is technically a borderline Pokemon, but as it's only legal in the OU tier, I figured I'd cover it here. Haxorus is just such a sad story. A, because in this gen, it looks gorgeous, and every other gen, if you look, it looks like the derpiest little thing. God, I hate what they did to Haxorus. But 2, because Haxorus is like 3 speed points away from being fantastic, 4 speed points away from being insane, and 6 speed points away from being absolutely broken. What I'm talking about there is Haxorus is base 97, meaning that it is 1 speed below Hydreigon. And because Scarf Hydreigon is so common, the fact that Dragon Dance Haxorus can destroy so many teams is more or less just completely negated by the fact that, Scarf Hydreigon always going to be faster than you, always going to beat you. Without a boost, Hydreigon and Garchomp and Salamence, always going to be faster, always going to beat you. The fact that any of this Pokemon could run a Scarf outweighs your Dragon Dance. The fact that any of them could Dragon Dance, it goes on and on. Haxorus is so close to being broken because Haxorus has the highest physical attack you're going to encounter. Yes, power creep is very real. As we're covering the Unova Pokemon now, you'll see a be covering them having just absolutely ludicrous offensive stats. And they do. Haxorus, while not super tanky, also isn't paper thin. It's generally going to live most all priority attacks. Its usage is terrible because of, the aforementioned speed issues. But yeah, in destroying defensive teams, Haxorus is right up there. So, Mold Breaker is a fantastic ability because, as you've noticed, Rotom Wash is everywhere. Mold Breaker ignores your opponent's ability when it comes to dealing damage. So, Haxorus' Earthquake, boom, is going to one-shot your Rotom Wash. It goes from being immune to super effective. With the natures, you can use Adamant and capitalize on Haxorus' nutty power, especially with a Choice Band, and just ignore the fact that it can't quite use that boosting sweeping that it wants to just Choice Band Adamant, Dragon Claw, kill something. This is more powerful with Outrage if you had buffed Outrage, but I think Dragon Claw is more worth it for us just because, again, as I mentioned earlier, locking yourself into a move for a 10 base power increase isn't really worth it, whereas the 40 base power increase of Outrage pre-nerf absolutely was. So, Life Orb is another option, as, Life Orb after Dragon Dance is going to one-shot, or is going to two-shot, I think, the entire metagame outside Skarmory, but you are much more susceptible to priority, which is everywhere, with especially Conkeldurr and Scizor running about. So you do need to be careful about that. Lumberry and Leftovers are also good options. Again, Haxorus, it has so many good qualities, but the frailty and just the slightly too slow speed really hold it back. Max attack and speed is the way to go here. So this is one of the sets that I've seen quite a bit. Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Dragon Dance, Low Kick. Low Kick is needed because it lets you beat Ferrothorn a bit easier than relying on Earthquakes. But again, you're always missing something somewhere with this Pokemon. If you've noticed, this is more or less Garchomp's coverage. You're just slightly slower, a bit more powerful than Garchomp, but way less tanky. That's the main thing. Garchomp is actually surprisingly physically bulky. So while Garchomp can just, I'm just gonna say, while Garchomp can dick down a lot of physical attackers, Haxorus can't. Instead of having, so Garchomp has almost nothing to fear from Mach Punch, from Conkeldurr, even Burned Conkeldurr, you're looking at, I mean, it breaks a substitute, but just barely. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And whereas Haxorus, two-shot. So, Swords Dance is here, because Double Dance Haxorus is a set where you run just Earthquake Dragon Claw, and you Dragon Dance against teams that you need the speed boost, and you Swords Dance against defensive teams, and Haxorus is the premier stall breaker. Like, while Reuniclus is good at dealing with stall, Haxorus Reuniclus, between the two of them, no stall team can survive. But yeah, the issue is that, you know, against most non-full stall teams, it won't have that much usage. Rock Slide is here because Rock Slide and Earthquake, of course, give you Quake Slide coverage. Very good. It would actually allow Haxorus to break through the increasingly prevalent Mandibuzz, which, you know, Earthquake and Dragon Claw both not really going to do, especially if it's Rocky Helmet. So it's worth mentioning there. Aqua Tail is decent. It smacks a Powdon. It's decent in the rain, you know, but I don't know. Substitute is here because Substitute Swords Dance is very good, as always. Haxorus doesn't have the HP to allow it to be immune, or to allow its substitutes to take a Seismic Toss, but still maybe worth it. Substituting on the switch, like if you run just Substitute over a boosting move, like Adamant Substitute, and just they switch when they see Haxorus, you sub on the switch, you get 2 hits off on something, Haxorus is very good. Because while I should mention that, you know, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Salamence, yada, they're all faster than Haxorus, they all definitely die in 1 hit. So, if you're behind a sub, that turns pretty good. Superpower is here for Low Kick, because Superpower Haxorus, just gonna one-shot some things. Pretty good. If you're running Choice Band, I think you should actually run Superpower over Low Kick every time. Low Kick is just here so you have a, you know, move that doesn't lower your stats if you're using Dragon Dance. I mean, Haxorus, that's what all there is to say here, just the tragic Pokemon that was so close to greatness, but just not quite there. Not bulky enough, not fast enough, and just, but wow, the damage. The damage on Haxorus, absolutely ludicrous. A lot of people aren't expecting it. Haxorus also has the ability to one-shot quite a lot of the top Pokemon. So don't dismiss it here. Like, I've been talking sadly about Haxorus. The reason I'm sad is that Haxorus isn't just the best Pokemon. Like, I fix a couple of those things, and Haxorus can be just the best offensive Pokemon in the game. Well, it's not. It's still pretty good. And the fact that it has low usage just means that its spot is heavily... There's a lot of competition by Pokemon that are just a little better, but Haxorus can still be very good. Mono Dragon could be fun. But... Or 5 Drag Mag, where you run just Magnezone to remove some Steel types and 5 Dragons. Pretty good. But yes. So... It's not terrible, it's just slightly worse than the other Pokemon, and it doesn't quite have enough traits to justify using it over them. Its Rotom Wash matchup is probably the main thing that justifies it, but sub-SD Garchomp being able to beat Rotom Wash most of the time has basically removed that niche as well. Okay, Mienshao, love this guy. So, I've been using Mienshao a lot. It was on one of my main Sand teams when I first started making a good team. Mienshao was in there. U-turn, like a fantastic lead back when you used to have a dedicated lead before team preview and picking a lead. Still very good, but oh man, back in those days, Mienshao is perfect. Okay, pure fighting type, pretty good. Mienshao is a fast offensive Pokemon, kind of squishy, but noticeably just enough HP and defense that you won't die to Mach Punch from Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr versus Mienshao comes up all the time. And if you're at full HP, which Regenerator as an ability, healing you for 1/3 of your HP every time you switch out, means you often will be, you're able to not die to that burn increased Mach Punch, while also not quite killing with high jump kick, but getting pretty close. If Conk's taking a little bit of damage, Mienshao actually starts to win that matchup. 9% usage, lots of people use Mienshao. So, Jolly and Naive are your 2 natures here. Jolly is what you're going to use all the time, unless you're running Hidden Power Ice, which is there, honestly, just for Gliscor. While Hidden Power Ice is good against Garchomp, Mienshao, without investing in a special attack, doesn't do enough damage with Hidden Power Ice to where High Jump Kick, just dealing so much damage and being stab, is actually going to do as much damage as the 4-time super effective Hidden Power Ice. However, with Gliscor, that's absolutely not the case, and with Sand teams that were walled by Gliscor, such as my old one, before Garchomp came out and hit Rotom Wash and other Pokemon that, you know, really hurt Sand, If you're wanting to use Sand, back in the day, you should have run Naive, Hidden Power Ice. I still think it's a good option. Gliscor is still out there. It's decent to smack a Hippowdon on, but like High Jump Kick just does so much damage, you can almost rely on that as your sole offensive move. So, with that out of the way, you're always running a speedy nature because Mienshao is fast enough that anything over base 100, you generally want to run speed to capitalize on that, beating the base 100s. Life Orb is such an incredible item on Mienshao, because boosting the power of High Jump Kick and U-turn and Fake Out even more, while not having the downside of, well, it still has the downside of that it hurts you, but every time you switch out, you heal. So, Mienshao can just throw off U-turns, get the free boost from Regenerator, or get the free boost from Life Orb, Regenerator, heal up all the damage, and, just basically get 30% more damage for free. It's a great option. It doesn't lock you into a move. And just, wow, what a move, what a Pokemon. Just the combination of Regenerator, Life Orb, and U-turn is just perfect. Choice Scarf is here, because while Mienshao is fast enough that it doesn't need Choice Scarf, the fact that it can use it is very good. Suddenly things like, what are the main ones? Suddenly something like Volcarona or something like Gyarados after a boost is going to be outsped in one shot by a Stone Edge, while this Pokemon would normally expect to just destroy a Mienshao. So Choice Scarf is there to outspeed 1, other Choice Scarfers, and 2, Pokemon that have gotten a boost and expect to outspeed Mienshao. It is a very good set. It works even better when it's unexpected. But I think Choice Scarf really has a lot of potential, as it lets you deal with those boosting threats. You don't have to build a team with as many defensive options to them as Mienshao functions as an offensive one. It destroys common Scarfers like Darmanitan and, what is its name? Hydreigon. Just get absolutely dumped on. High Jump Kick also just takes just an enormous bite, especially with Life Orb out of Rotom Wash. You have to be max physical defense Rotom Wash to take 2, and honestly, then like any other set is getting dunked. Honestly, I don't know how well you take it. With Stealth Rocks up, you might still be 2-shot if you switch in, but yeah, just a bunch of damage. So getting into the moveset, High Jump Kick is your main offensive move. Technically it only misses 10% of the time, but if you use Mienshao, it's a lot more than that. As long as it doesn't miss, though, it's great. A lot of people like to switch ghosts into Mienshao, so don't High Jump Kick if they have a ghost, click U-turn. They go to their ghost, you U-turn into Tyranitar or something, or Choice Band Scizor, kill it with the Pursuit, and now next time you use High Jump Kick, you are good to just thrash their team. Fake Out is here, just great move overall, strong priority, and lets you outspeed some Pokemon, lets you stall out turns of Rain or Sand, pretty good for, lots of those other uses. So, Stone Edge is here, because if you notice on my set from some of my older videos, I was running Taunt. Well, I think Taunt is great, especially when Mienshao is a dedicated lead as it was back then. It's still good, but Stone Edge allows you to fix a lot of those coverage gaps that Mienshao kind of has, relying on just a fighting type move. With Stone Edge, you're now able to maybe catch Gengar on the switch instead of having to U-turn. You can just smack it with a Stone Edge, smack some other ghosts around, or just smack Pokemon that are relying on resisting High Jump Kick, like some flying types. So, with the other moves here, Hidden Power Ice, again, if you're running Naive, covers Gliscor, and, decent against Garchomp, it doesn't miss, which is something. So, Taunt is a good one, as it allows Mienshao to beat a lot of defensive Pokemon. You can then U-turn out after they're taunted, and if, let's say, like Hippowdon stays in after it's taunted, cool, Hippowdon used Earthquake. Like, it's one of those things, like, you can then know what they're doing and switch to something accordingly. Or, like, the speed on Mienshao means that it could taunt Mandibuzz. Then U-turn out means Mandibuzz, if it stays in, probably went for Brave Bird. You can switch to something accordingly. It has very good synergy on Mienshao's kit, but Mienshao is squishy enough that sometimes, like, taunting a Skarmory could just click Brave Bird and you die. So, ups and downs. Swords Dance is a move I kind of just found out Mienshao got. Swords Dance Mienshao is insane. Like, I don't know how to describe this, but your High Jump Kick almost 2-hit KOs the entirety of the metagame. With a Swords Dance, it guarantees you 2-hit KOs everything that's not immune to it, and 1-hit KOs almost everything. Like, I'm going to need to try this out, because it sounds absolutely insane. But yeah, Mienshao, great lead, great pivot, the ability to constantly heal throughout the match is great. It lets it live on sand teams. Normally, a Pokemon with Life Orb that isn't immune to sand is going to get worn down way too quickly, but Mienshao healing up every time it switches out means that it has no problem with that at all. Devastatingly powerful High Jump Kicks, that's the name of the game for Mienshao. Alright, now we're looking at Hydreigon, the Pokemon I mention all the time. Every time there's a video, I say, ooh, watch out, this is going to be Scarf Hydreigon, and it never is. That being said, it should be, so never discount Hydreigon as not Scarf until you're positive it isn't. That's the best way to look at this Pokemon. Base 98 speed means it's slightly faster than Haxorus, and faster than most defensive Pokemon, however slower than most offensive Pokemon, hence the Scarf. So, Dark Dragon typing, pretty good. Notable weakness to fighting means that you don't really love Conkeldurr running around, and you don't resist Bullet Punch, so Bandito's Bullet Punch is going to be a pain. Hydreigon is pretty tanky, so you're not going to die to either of those unless you've taken a little prior damage, but, something to be aware of. You actually might die to Mach Punch. I'd looked it up. I don't use Hydreigon, so I don't know for sure, or Conkeldurr, but it's very close to being a one-shot, if not a one-shot. At 15% usage, almost 16, Hydreigon is very well represented, and that's because it has a fantastic offensive presence. So timid or modest are going to be your choices here. Usually timid, just to outspeed other Scarfers, but if you run modest with a Choice Scarf, you can honestly get away with it a lot of the time because you're going to outspeed most any Pokemon without a Scarf anyways, and the extra damage is great. Hydreigon doesn't have amazing special attack. I think it's only 125, so it can use the boost. For the items here, Life Orb is actually the first move I've listed here, because although we talk about Choice Scarf being the most used set, and a set you always need to be prepared for, I don't think it's the most powerful set, especially with the way a lot of defensive Pokemon are shaping up right now. I think that the Life Orb, Taunt, Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Roost set has fantastic potential against a vast majority of the meta right now. So this allows Hydreigon to deal with a lot of threats. Taunt lets it more or less beat every defensive Pokemon that's out there. The ability to roost off damage combined with Taunt, very good. Lets you reset your Life Orb damage and break through a lot of teams. Substitute can be a great option as well on the Life Orb set with Roost to maybe in place of Taunt. You could run Sub Roost, Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse. Now suddenly if you substitute as they go to Garchomp, you're in a fantastic option. As Hydreigon still has the pressure to kill Garchomp, Life Orb making that even easier. Choice Scarf is of course the premier set of Hydreigon and was its more or less only set about a couple years ago. So with Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, Dark Pulse, Focus Blast, something like that, great options. I'll say you almost never see Focus Blast. Like very, very few people want to run Focus Blast in this game. I don't know why. It's a very good move on Hydreigon, but it's something to keep in mind, but sometimes they'll just not run it. A lot of people don't. U-Turn is usually seen over Focus Blast on the Scarf set. So it'd be Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, U-Turn, which again has good coverage, so it's not terrible. But against Tyranitar, you really suffer, which hence Focus Blast. Leftovers is another good option, as you combine the bulk of Haxorus to pull off the same Tank Buster set with a bit less damage, but the increased healing from Roost plus Leftovers, as opposed to Roost plus Life Orb, meaning that you're a lot better at taking sustained damage. So, for your other moves here, Dark Pulse is going to be a strong move. However, just with the way coverage works against a lot of the top Pokemon right now, there aren't a lot of Pokemon where you need Dark Pulse. If your team has a problem with Reuniclus, then Dark Pulse is very good. But if you have something like a Tyranitar or a Scizor, who generally set, Hydreigon is probably the third best answer to Reuniclus. The problem is that you're going to die to one Focus Blast. So keep that in mind. You can't really switch it in as freely as a Scizor can. So if you do lose to that Pokemon, Dark Pulse is great. If you don't, generally Dragon Pulse and Flamethrower is enough coverage to get you by. Focus Blast is pretty good, as Focus Blast plus Dark Pulse forms a more or less perfect coverage core. You have to rely on low accuracy moves though, so Flamethrower and Dragon Pulse usually gets you by without having to use those. Workup is here, as it increases your physical and special attack, which seems like a bit of a waste at first, but while it increases your special attack to the level that Hydreigon becomes quite the premier special attacking threat, it means that in conjunction with running Superpower, you can actually one-shot a Blissey with a little bit of physical attack investment, and that allows mixed Hydreigon to be quite the threat. Access to mixed Superpower with Workup means that Hydreigon really has that surprise factor. It is a surprisingly versatile Pokemon for a Pokemon that usually just runs Flamethrower, Double Stab. But, it can pull off quite a couple of surprise sets. Substitute is here, because Substitute 3 attack, I think, is a good set. Running Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, Substitute, subbing on the switch, and beating something up when it switches in. Good set. But U-Turn is really just any Pokemon that gets U-Turn, you should highly consider using this move. Especially something that isn't starved for move slots, like Hydreigon is not. So, U-Turn on a Scarf set is fantastic for scouting opposing Pokemon. It does usually give away your Scarf. Let's see if you U-turn in front of a Pokemon that is usually faster than you, but it's still good to get knowledge overall. Generally, U-Turn isn't as good on non-Scarf sets, because if you're not running Scarf, you want to be running Roost, and then you do cut into your coverage. But good to know, good to be aware of. And yeah, that's Hydreigon. And finally, last but so definitely not least, we're looking at Volcarona. One of my favorite Pokemon, and just one of my favorite ways to just, if I want to play Pokemon, but I don't really want to think about the match, I just want to clean up super easily, Volcarona is where it's at. Bug Fire typing is unique until we get the Centiskorch much later on, but surprisingly works pretty well. It gives you a resistance to Mach Punch, which is very appreciated. It gives you a resistance to Bullet Punch, which is quite useful for Volcarona. The only forms of priority it leaves you weak to is sadly going to be Aqua Jet. And yes, Volcarona can't really do anything against a Kabutops or an Azumarill, but outside of those fairly rare Pokemon, Volcarona can just absolutely destroy. So, Flame Body means if you touch Volcarona, you're probably going to get burned. The thing is, though, Volcarona, while it has amazing special defense, pretty good HP, outstanding special attack, and strong speed at base 100, it doesn't want to be hit by physical attacks. So Flame Body is often your final curse. As you go down, you hope that you burn them as Volcarona dies, meaning that Volcarona can maybe kill one Pokemon. They switch into Azumarill. Azumarill kills you. If you burn Azumarill, Volcarona functionally 2 for 1. Pretty good. So 15% usage means Volcarona is something you should be aware of. Volcarona is one of those Pokemon. While I talk about teams being unprepared for like Hydreigon, unprepared for Garchomp, Volcarona is something where if you are not prepared for Volcarona, it will boost with Cover Dance once and sweep your team. Volcarona is always like 1 or 2 missteps away from just sweeping your whole team, even with a Blissey. Let's say you're running a standard Blissey set with what I consider the best Blissey set with like Rock's Flamethrower. If Volcarona gets in, Rock's Flamethrower Toxic, Volcarona just needs to substitute, which is, to be fair, rare to see on Volcarona, but if it subs, suddenly it can boost to +6 on your face, and Volcarona can sweep you. So, like, it's always some way you need to be afraid of Volcarona. With the natures, Timid is very good for boosting once. Basically, if you want to boost once and sweep someone's team, it's Timid. If you want to boost twice and just destroy even a defensive team, Modest is your bet. The other important option for running Timid here is with Hydreigon running around. Timid means you're faster than Hydreigon, or faster than Scarf Hydreigon after a boost, meaning that because Quiver Dance boosts your offense, defense, or your special attack, special defense, and speed, if you can Quiver Dance before Hydreigon hits you, you can then Quiver Dance twice before it hits you a second time, meaning that you have gained a whole bunch of special defense. So at that point, you can then probably proceed to sweep their team. Or if it's Scarf, you have to take the first hit. Quiver Dance then makes you faster than the second one, meaning that you could either just kill it with Stab Super Effective Bug Buzz, or you could get off a second Quiver Dance and go for game. 2 Quiver Dances basically always spells game unless they have exactly Blissey. Almost nothing else can survive Volcarona. Mantine has a pretty good bet, but after 2 boosts, or potentially a third, stuff like HP Rock lets you wear it down pretty quickly. So for the EVs, you're almost always going special attack and speed. That being said, Volcarona has quite a good claim to fame as well. You could run a bulky set, similar to the way Reuniclus works, where you just invest fully into bulk and rely on your boosting move. Volcarona has the added advantage of Quiver Dance being just strictly better Calm Mind, where it gives you this Calm Mind boost, but also speed. So you don't have to invest into speed, you don't have to invest into special attack, and once you get a couple Quiver Dances off, you're still going to sweep someone's team, even with uninvested Volcarona. I think it's a good set. I haven't quite found a spread that I like for it, but something to be aware of. Sweeping people with Volcarona is one of my absolute passions. So this is the standard Volcarona set that I run, that I generally think is better than just the standard Giga Drain set. So Bug Buzz, Fiery Dance is what you're going to see a lot. Fiery Dance can be Flamethrower, it can be Fire Blast. I like Fiery Dance. I will say I've been using Flamethrower a bit more, and I think I might prefer Flamethrower now, just because at +1 with Stealth Rocks up, Flamethrower allows you to one-shot a lot more variants of Togekiss, a lot more variants of some other Pokemon as well, that Fire Dance just isn't quite going to give you the damage to do. So Flamethrower is pretty good against that. However, Fire Dance always has that 50% chance to increase your special attack. So maybe Fiery Dance as on the Switch, which is always one of my favorite plays, to just deal a bit of chip damage, increase your special attack to the point that HP Rock or Bug Buzz kills something. You lose that option, but I think the guaranteed higher damage of Flamethrower is more important. So, Quiver Dance, best boosting move in the game, always run it. Hidden Power Rock is here, because the two relevant types of Pokemon that Volcarona is going to be, not walled by, but the two relevant types of Pokemon that are going to resist Volcarona are going to be your flying Pokemon that have a resistance to fire, so specifically flying dragons, or you're going to be looking at your fire type Pokemon, which Volcarona is actually kind of walled by between Bug Buzz and Flamethrower. So, Hidden Power Rock covers both of those groups very well, especially in conjunction with Stealth Rocks. Both of those groups are weak to Stealth Rock, so even though Hidden Power Rock is generally a weak move, the fact that those Pokemon only have 75% HP when they're dealing with you means that Hidden Power Rock, after a +1 boost, is generally enough to one-shot everything from your Gyarados. Gyarados has very high special defense. You usually need +2 to deal with Gyarados, but one-shotting things like Salamanders, your Darmanitans, things that normally don't have a problem with Volcarona, you're able to check with Hidden Power Rock. So Life Orb is an option you can use to power through those things. With Life Orb, you are going to be killing this Pokemon all the time. However, the downside is that Volcarona will wear itself out pretty quickly. One boost with like Timid Life Orb will sweep a lot of teams, but it really lowers the options that Volcarona has against defensive Pokemon or the ability to boost twice in something's face. The earlier thing I mentioned was setting up in the face of the Hydreigon with Volcarona only works if you're running leftovers. Otherwise, setting up twice in its face, you could still get your boosts off, but you're almost dead and you're going to die to 2 turns of Life Orb recoil anyways, at which point boosting twice is almost never worth it. So I feel that leftovers, or in some cases Iapapa Berry Volcarona, is a lot better bet, as you're able to get your boosts up, then keep up healing over time to apply pressure and potentially sweep the whole team. So the way to think about it is Life Orb means you're going to kill about 2 or 3 Pokemon. 1 or 2 Pokemon, let's be real. And Leftovers gives you the chance to sweep their whole team. So if your team is dedicated to setting up Volcarona in a position where it can sweep their whole team, then run Leftovers. However, I do think the offensive Volcarona with Life Orb is a good set as well. Get a couple kills, die, maybe Flame Body on your way out. It's a strong set, but it's just a different type of Volcarona. And I generally think setting up for Volcarona to sweep your opponent's team is pretty good. Volk also has a fantastic matchup against all the top 5 Pokemon, potentially one-shotting. So +1 Bug Buzz is going to be almost killing your Garchomps, and Garchomp, after it takes just a little bit of spikes damage, dies. Life Orb, Bug Buzz at +1 is going to kill Garchomp. It's your Flamethrower +1 Life Orb is going to be killing Scizor, of course. It's going to be killing Conkeldurr. Rotom Wash, I do think if you're running Life Orb, you give a Hidden Power Rock for Giga Drain, because the ability to have some healing on Life Orb sets is very good. Also, Life Orb means that your Giga Drain has the power to just dunk on some Rotom Wash sets, has the ability to basically give you a free full heal if they're running a Swampert or a Gastrodon. So, also, it gives you the ability to mess with Pokemon that would, like this Volcarona does have a problem with Jellicent. I'll give it that. It doesn't have a good way to beat Jellicent. So, Giga Drain does improve that, but the increase in Jellicent means that, or the relative obscurity of Jellicent until recently means it's something I haven't really worried about, and Jellicent has a lot of other weaknesses that you can capitalize on instead of using Volcarona to beat it. So, worth looking into, but not necessary, basically. But yeah, I do, like, I'm not saying Life Orb is bad by any means. Life Orb Giga Drain is a very good set, especially in the current meta, where again, as I've said so many times in this video, strong grass type attacks give you wins against a lot of Pokemon right now. But I think just the standard sweep your whole team Hidden Power Rock set is more important. And if you are choosing Giga Drain, you should know why you're choosing Giga Drain, and you shouldn't just use it because, oh, I kill Swampert. Like, I've seen a lot of people run Giga Drain Volcarona on sets where it absolutely isn't warranted, and now suddenly you're walled by a bunch of Pokemon that you wouldn't be in other sets. So, if you're going to try to sweep with Volcarona, you're not going Giga Drain. If you're trying to break a team pretty quick with Life Orb, you go Giga Drain Life Orb. Some other options here is Hurricane. Hurricane can be used over Hidden Power Rock, because all the Pokemon that are weak to Hidden Power Rock basically are neutral to Hurricane, and Hurricane dealing more or less double damage to Hidden Power Rock means that it does the same thing. This is for rain teams exclusively, and the other main reason you run Hurricane is that in the rain, you're going to be not walled, but Conkeldurr threatens to kill you while only taking about half of its HP and damage, with something like Stone Edge, which is a move that a lot more Conkeldurrs have been opting into. So in the rain, Volcarona actually loses to Conkeldurr unless it's running Hurricane, in which case you always kill Conkeldurr, and it's a fantastic option. Lots of people don't see it coming, and Hurricane gives Volcarona the ability to just mess up a lot more teams than usual, but exclusive to Rain, we'll say. Substitute is a good move because all the stuff we've been talking about, all of it fails in the face of a Blissey. Just one Blissey, Volcarona is useless. However, Substitute means that any form of Blissey that isn't running... Substitute means that any form of Blissey that isn't running Seismic Toss, which is quite a bit of them, that Blissey gets set up on and gets its whole team swept by Volcarona. Rest is here, because Rest actually, especially in conjunction with something like a Chesto Berry, means Volcarona could set up on a Blissey's face, try to get 3 or 4 boosts, so Quiver Dance up, especially if like you Quiver Dance as a switch in Blissey, you Quiver Dance as a Toxic you Quiver Dance as a, like, say, Flamethrower or Seismic Toss, you Quiver Dance again as they do it a second time, and then you rest, healing yourself fully and removing the Toxic. Then potentially something like a Fire Blast Volcarona could actually break through Chance of your Blissey and proceed to sweep someone's team. I think Rest is slept on quite a bit, so that's something to look into. Roost is another option. So while the healing is good from Roost, you have to give up on your coverage options. So Quiver Dance, Roost, Bug Buzz, Fire Dance is a good set, but lacking the extra coverage from Hidden Power Rock or Giga Drain actually really hurts Volcarona's chances of sweeping. So Roost allows you to use Life Orb, which is good, but generally Volcarona is going to be worn down by status, and its main problems are status Pokemon. So I think if you're looking for a healing move, Rest and the ability to heal off status is going to be more important than Roost. Flamethrower and Fire Blast are just your alternate fire type attacks, depending on how much you value accuracy, or how much you value immediate power over the chance of a higher boost. Hidden Power Ice is a strong option to always kill Garchomp after +1, but generally, the ability, that's with a timid set with leftovers is going to kill Garchomp with Hidden Power Ice. Any set that's running more offenses than that, so like a Modest set or a Life Orb set, you're going to be able to kill Garchomp with a +1 Bug Buzz. Hidden Power Ice is pretty rarely used. It's just thrown out there as potentially an option. It does let you cover something like Salamence as well, but it leaves you much wider open to being swept by a Gyarados or having low options against Darmanitan or opposing Chandelure. So that should be my thesis on Volcarona, more or less. Volcarona was borderline broken with the full setup we had with Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet being removed means I'm not quite sure where it's going to fall. I still think Volcarona is good, but I think that it needs more of a team built around it than the double bug offense where you'd run Volcarona, Scizor, Wobbuffet, and just destroy almost any team. So yeah, that's been this video. This should cover just about every OU Pokemon you need to know in potentially too much depth. But you guys seem to like these, and I really do like making videos. It's just, it's been hard. Like, it's been hard for me to get into a video making mood for a while. But I want to do this. My friend's actually here in town, the friend who encouraged me to make the YouTube channel in the first place. So I'm going to try to record another video with him today. So I should try to have one, or today or tomorrow. So I'll have one coming out soon. It's just with us going over a balance team that I built for Worlds, but it doesn't seem like I'm going to actually be using. So it covers a really in-depth team building process. Like I spent so long building this team. I've tested it a couple times, but we'll get into if it's actually good later. It's finally a shift away from offense for me. So I think it's fun to look at. It'll be fun for us to test out for you guys and show you guys some other team options you can use. That being said, if you want a Pokemon, just leave a comment down below. Tell me what you want, and thanks so much for all the comments, guys. Like every time, even though I'm not making videos, I see your comments. I love it so much. Like someone just on Discord, you know who you are. You sent me a message last night, just like one of those nice messages, like, "Hey, I love your videos," and like that means so much to me. Like that's what gave me motivation to today. Like get up and be like, "All right, I need to make a video. I'm making it for you guys." Yeah, that should be just about all the sappy stuff. Yeah, I think it covers it. Oh, one last thing. I know this is thrown at the end. Hopefully someone notices it. I might leave it in the description. But if you guys have questions, leaving it in the YouTube comments works, of course. I try to look through those and try to answer them. However, I am pretty slow to answer YouTube comments. I don't have a great way to see them and answer them very well. The Discord, though, I'm going to shill that out again. Joining the Discord is great. We have not just myself, who I'm very, very much faster at answering questions there, either through PMs or just posts that you post in like the team building thread or the general thread. But there's lots of other people there who are great at answering questions. Big shout out to Bells. I think he's got a channel. I'll try to add that to my recommended channels. He's been posting a lot of the videos for the World Cup. So if you want to watch those matches, he's a great one to watch. He actually posted a pretty good breeding video as well for people who are looking to just breed like some of the quicker, not like pseudo-competitive Pokemon, like 3x31, because realistically, 3x31 works most of the time. So if the massive breeding cost of fully breeding competitive Pokemon is keeping you out of competitive, then I think it's a good video to take a look at to see how to get a lot more cheap Pokemon that are going to work almost every time basically just as well. So yeah, that's I'd recommend checking that out. Recommend checking out the Discord. And all right, I'll see you later, guys. Don't worry, I'll still be around.